Hey there, folks. So welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. This week surprised me. In more ways than one, actually, and for the most part, they seem to be good surprises, where songs that I was not looking forward to didn't show up, and a few that I never dared to dream would chart actually cracked through. To me, this was the sort of good news that I've been conditioned not to expect going into the summer slowdown, or really on the Hot 100 at all. And considering next week we're probably going to get a big push for Lorde, yeah, maybe things are looking up more for 2017, already a pretty good year in the Hot 100? Well, okay, let's start off with the top 10, and to nobody's surprise, Despacito by Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee, and Justin Bieber is got a lock on number 1, as it is quite literally dominant in nearly every category. Hell, give it a few weeks and it'll have the top airplay spot too. Its momentum is not slowing down there. And yet right behind it on the radio is I'm the One by DJ Khaled featuring Chance the Rapper, Justin Bieber, Quavo, and Lil Wayne, and his continued rise up to number 2 on airplay traction, solid sales, and really potent YouTube. It overtook That's What I Like by Bruno Mars down to number 3. But that's not all that surprising given its sharper losses on radio, even despite better than expected weeks in sales and streaming. Not quite the same case for Shape of You by Ed Sheeran though. It might be bleeding airplay a little bit slower, but it didn't really recover this week in other categories. It's just taking its time dying off. Compare this to Humble by Kendrick Lamar holding on to number 5, mostly thanks to streaming and decent sales week compensating for some wavering airplay, which is also a similar case for Mask Off by Future at number 6, except its sales were just lousy. Then we had the surprising slight recovery for Something Just Like This by the Chainsmokers and Coldplay up to number 7, which if you look at the sales or the radio data might not make a lot of sense, which is also similar to Stay by Alessia Cara and Zed up to number 8 on good radio despite some weak sales, or Congratulations by Post Malone featuring Quavo up to number 9, which had good streaming. That's pretty much it though at this point. What's much more likely triggered here and make these songs rise is the loss for EXO Tour Life by Lil Uzi Vert down to number 10, mostly thanks to a pretty big collapse on YouTube taking a sizable chunk out of its streaming numbers. And while I'm not gonna say it's enough to kill the song, I've been trying to predict that for weeks now, it is promising, at least for me. And on that note are losers and dropouts, and the only two in the latter category that are really worth mentioning are Scared to Be Lonely by Martin Garrix and Dua Lipa, which is sadly not all that surprising, and Rockabye by Clean Bandit featuring Sean Paul and Anne-Marie. And I don't actually have any complaints with this. It had a solid chart run, it was a decent enough song. Not sure anybody's gonna remember it, but yeah, it was pretty good. Where things get a little bit more interesting comes in our losers this week, because there was a significant list, and let's get the obvious cases out of the way first. First, we have Black by Dierks Bentley continuing to fade down to 86, and the expected drops after the debut for No No Better by Major Lazer featuring Travis Scott, Camila Cabello, and Quavo down to 99, Down by Fifth Harmony and Gucci Mane hard to 71, and 4am by 2 Chainz featuring Travis Scott. Okay, actually that last one is surprising given the release of the album, but maybe it'll recover next week. Hell, given the loss of Good Drank by 2 Chainz, Quavo, and Gucci Mane, 2 Chainz did not seem to be having a good week, at least not in these songs. Oh, and then there's the loss for Heavy by Linkin Park featuring Kiara down to 83 as it sputters out of momentum, but really, it's more surprising that it's lasted this long. The other losses, well, In Case You Didn't Know by Brett Young seems to be fading down gracefully to 31 after doing way better than I think anybody expected, probably including Brett Young. Passion Fruit by Drake goes down to 45, and given how strong of a summer song this could be, I'm actually a little bit surprised by this. And finally, Slide by Calvin Harris featuring Frank Ocean and Migos down to 46. Again, it's more of a summer song. I expected a little bit more longevity, but it's got enough points to make the year-end list for 2017, so I'm generally happy with it altogether. Oh, and to end on a good note, Swang by Ray Shrimmer hit number 50. The sooner the song is gone, the better. No complaints there. So to continue on that good note, what about our returning entries and gains? Well, a reminder by The Weeknd is back up to 97. Apparently there's word circulating that this is going to be an upcoming single, so okay. But I wish we had more good news in our gains. For one, I do not understand why Every Day We Lit by YFN Lukey featuring P&B Rock is back up to 37. It's got streaming, so maybe there's some sort of meme going on with this? I don't know. I can't tell at this point. Then we have the revival of Bad Liar by Selena Gomez up to 23, probably thanks to the video, and Butterfly Effect by Travis Scott gaining some traction up to 81, which is really insane, which is just kind of a nothing of a song. And thanks off the album, Katy Perry picked up some this week with Swish 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 with Nicki Minaj up to 62, and Bon Appetit with Migos up to 85. But here's the interesting surprise. Outside of those gains, not a single Katy Perry song from the album debuted on the Hot 100 this week. I don't know if it was a question of Taylor Swift's streaming strategy paying some dues, or the fact that bad word of mouth just killed any expanded potential for the album, or the fact that the album just sucked. But in replacement, we got this. Number 100, It Ain't My Fault by Brothers Osborne.
Find me a witness who can testify. You made a mistake, you got the wrong guy. I'm only guilty of a damn good time. No, it ain't my fault.
The more I listen to Brothers Osborne, the more I'm just convinced that they should be big, and yet I'm constantly surprised that they actually are gaining traction, winning awards and crawling tooth and nail up to the radio. And this, it's their best song yet to cross over. And if all of you saw my list of my top 50 best songs of 2016, you all know that already. I've loved this song since it dropped over a year ago. The scuzzy guitar line, the persistent melodic groove, the reliance on aggressive bass vocals. You just don't hear in modern country in the same way anymore that actually can back up a certain type of wry swagger that makes it the best sort of party track where things are just about to get wild. Bro country wishes it had this sort of southern rock muscle. Man, I love this song. And that's not to neglect the video, which might just be one of my favorite videos of 2017, just simply for the sheer balls of the political commentary that's shoved in, seemingly hitting every hot button just because they can. I'm stunned that it's not sparked more controversy, especially from a more typically conservative country scene. Look, I have no expectations that this song is going to be a hit. The biggest crossover hits Stay a Little Longer kind of got screwed by poor timing around the end of 2015, didn't make either year-end list, and with a song with this much of a ruckus edge, it probably doesn't have much of a chance, but I would love to see it happen anyway. Folks, I highly recommend you check this out. You will not regret it. It kicks ass. Number 95, It's a Vibe by 2 Chainz featuring Dolla, Trey Songz, and Jhene Aiko.
That's a vibe. It's a vibe. That's a vibe. Yeah, that's a vibe. Oh, it's a vibe. And that's a vibe. Yeah, that's a vibe. She want a vibe. That's a vibe, yeah.
So apparently 2 Chainz' newest record, Pretty Girls Like Trap Music, is getting frankly shockingly good reviews. And while as of now it's not on my Patreon schedule, this song did intrigue me, most notably for the presence of Jhene Aiko and Trey Songz on it, which kind of makes Dolla kind of redundant, but he's probably used to that by now. But that's the weird thing, the song feels a little bit overstuffed with some of its guest stars. Dolla's verse isn't really all that far removed from a pretty bare bones hook that 2 Chainz contributes with an oddly flat delivery, which feels especially awkward opposite Trey Songz and Jhene Aiko, who are just riding this groove really damn well, with the supple bass line, the guitar, and the piano playing against a trap beat that honestly might be more languid and less staccato than 2 Chainz is used to. And his verse actually isn't all that bad. The rhymes all connect pretty well, even if he's not delivering a lot of energy, even though that's not really the point of the song, but it's an odd fit for him, arguably stronger for his guest stars than 2 Chainz as a whole. Overall, I like this groove a lot, but you know what, as for the song, you know what, it's pretty damn likable. I probably will see myself coming back to this. I'll take it. Number 93, What Ifs by Kane Brown featuring Alaina.
What if I just pull you close? What if I lean in and the stars line up and it's our last first kiss? What if one of these days, baby, I go and change your name? What if I loved all these what ifs away?
You know, I can't actually believe I'm saying this, but I actually feel a little bit sorry for Kane Brown, because from a mainstream country industry standpoint, he seemed to be doing everything right. He had ground level buzz thanks to Facebook and YouTube push, he wasn't a bad singer, and while I didn't like any of his god-awful production, you'd think that he'd be perfectly primed to land on country radio, and yet it hasn't really happened. Sure, his debut album sold well enough last December, mostly co-written by Florida Georgia Line, which didn't say much for me, but his singles, while selling pretty well on their own, haven't really crossed over in the same way. So, in a way, it made sense that he connected with Alaina, who's actually a high school acquaintance of his, and who has been managing her own pop country career arguably better for this song, which nearly didn't make the album except for fan pressure. That is saying something. And after giving this a lot of listens, I'm actually kind of conflicted. On the one hand, it's a really poor use of Lauren Alaina, as she's pretty much just relegated to backing vocals and cooing, and frankly, her exuberance might have been a much better fit than Kane Brown's flatter drawl. And the lyrics, they don't help here, because it's not like the what-if questions that would be asked why this wouldn't work if they don't have some weight. And Kane Brown's counterpoint feels like he's kind of treading water in its message of hope, barely even engaging with the possible reality of it not working out. And it's not like the too synthetic production issues with the fake hand claps and the backbeat, or the fast-paced faux rapping, not like these issues have gone away. And yet, with that choppy guitar and the banjo going into that hook, you know what, I haven't been this conflicted about a monster pop country hook with so many problems since Chris Lane's Fix last year. I actually kind of really like this hook. So yeah, even though I think I'm supposed to on some level hate this song, I can't all that much. Probably the best thing I've heard from Kane Brown thus far. That's not saying much, but yeah, check it out if you're curious. Number 89, Escapate Conmigo by Wisin featuring Ozuna. Though, thanks to Despacito's popularity, we're seeing all manner of Latin artists hitting the Hot 100. But at least with Wisin, I knew he'd had some charting success before, both back in 2014 and with Enrique Iglesias last year. So now there's this new track, which is apparently the big single for his upcoming record Victory. And here's the thing, I'm not denying that Wisin and Ozuna have some decent intensity for this sort of late night hookup, and there's more going on in the melody between the watery guitar tone and some subtle backing tones behind the blockier beat, but I keep finding myself wishing that the song picked up a little bit more organic groove and didn't default to this very rubbery, very blocky percussion line. It's just clunky and not all that interesting for me, although it does fit Wisin's more broadly sketch delivery. But beyond that, look, as you can all clearly tell, I don't speak Spanish. But from when I translated, the sex references, they're okay. They're not as embarrassing as they could have been in the past. But on that same note, it's not like the song caters to anything all that smooth or sensual. And despite Ozuna's efforts, it's not all that sexy. I don't know, folks. I've been trying to give more of this reggaeton style a chance in recent months in the mainstream, but as it is, gotta say, it's not really doing much for me. Sorry. Number 79, Do I Make You Wanna by Billy Currington.
Flying down a two-lane road, flying, then they hang you close. Do I make you wanna let your hair down, play a little truth or dare now, act just like you don't care now, girl, when I come around, tell me, do I make you wanna?
Okay, I thought the name of this song looked familiar. Seriously, are we getting a new single from Billy Currington from an album that was dropped 2 years ago? Pretty damn forgettable at that. Well, that being said, when I covered Summer Forever, this was a song that I flagged as probably my favorite on that album, and returning to it now, I can see why. It's got a good, gentle, melodic groove, plays with the more spacious guitar tones, especially on the bridge that sounds pretty good, and the slapdash questions of what she wants to do, they're pretty endearing in a way that matches Billy Currington's hangdog delivery. The song is very much not perfect. The production definitely shows some seams where the budget didn't quite come through. And at the end of the day, this isn't all that far removed from most bro country. But as I've always said, I like Billy Currington's approach to bro country. And this, for me, damn good song. I guess I'm finally happy to see it here after all. So check it out. Not bad. Number 70, Love Galore by SZA featuring Travis Scott.
These niggas do it for fun. Don't take it personally, I'm surprised you call me after the things I said. Skirt, skirt, all niggas. Skirt up, all niggas. Skirt down, you acting like me. Acting like we wasn't more than.
The fact that this song charted blows my mind. Seriously, Katy Perry can't break a single album track and yet SZA comes through? Look, I'm still surprised that my review of this album has done as well as it has. Maybe there's more of a push behind her than I expected. But still, this is a mainstream crossover, and you can only give Travis Scott so much credit here, especially considering that he toned back considerably to fit in with the atmosphere of the song. And here's the thing, I didn't really talk all that much about Love Galore when I reviewed the album, but I actually dig this song a fair bit. Yeah, the more textured beat beat doesn't really do much for me against the firmer bass of the song, but the gentle swells of muted horns and synth actually click pretty well for SZA, and I really like a lot of the content in the lyrics, whereas she's kind of bemused that after a pretty vicious fight and what she assumed was a breakup, this guy is actually coming back to her, even though he's got a new girlfriend. I do wish that Travis Scott was a little bit more of a lyricist to play into that scene, maybe flesh out the song a little bit more, call to mind his motive, and again, that tropical beat feels a tad too close to the front of the mix, a little bit flat for me. As I said in the review, the guitar-driven tracks tend to pick up better percussion than the more hip-hop related ones on the album, but honestly, there's still significant groove to this, although I do question how well this will fare as a single outside of the context of the album, where I think it might actually fit a little better, and I gotta be honest, I didn't really like the big slowdown that came at the end. But still, pretty good track. I like this, check it out. And finally, number 16, To You by David Guetta featuring Justin Bieber.
When it comes to you, don't be blind. Watch me speak from my heart when it comes to you.
I knew it was only going to be a matter of time before David Guetta made his big comeback, but people forget that it's been 2 years since Hey Mama broke into the top 10, and the trends in pop and electronic music have mutated considerably since then, especially in the mainstream. Hell, look at what his peer Calvin Harris is putting out right now compared to what he did 2 years ago. So I was curious if this was going to be any good, and look, this isn't precisely bad so much as it's just not all that interesting. Basically, it's David Guetta trying to split the difference between Zed and DJ Snake, and in the former case of the pile-up of instrumental styles and the low-thrumming build-up, which, yes, I actually do like, and in the latter with the drop that's more of a pile-up of buzzy synth, hollowed-out vocal samples, and a really anticlimactic ending. And here's the thing, I get that Justin Bieber might seem like an obvious choice thanks to his work with DJ Snake on songs like Let Me Love You, that was a hit, but DJ Snake doesn't overplay the drops opposite Bieber, especially considering that Bieber seemed to completely phone in his vocals here entirely. It doesn't help that the lyrics feel very thin and lacking any sort of distinctive personality as a whole, and that's saying something coming from Bieber. He's a little better in that regard. And when you consider there's no real bridge or surprising change up to the track, it shows that David Guetta is trying to imitate current trends, but it's instead falling on some bad habits, because this is pretty underwritten too. I don't think there's anything aggressively wrong with this song, but it's also not that interesting. And as such, yeah, To You by David Guetta and Justin Bieber is getting worse of the week. But the truth is, a lot of this week was really good. So much so that I'm dropping the dishonorable mention entirely and giving out 2 honorable mentions. Obviously, It Ain't My Fault by Brothers Osborne, that's getting the best of the week. But the honorable mentions are going to Do I Make You Wanna by Billy Currington and It's a Vibe by 2 Chainz, Ty Dolla $ign, Trey Songz, and Jhene Aiko. What can I say? The groove, it really grew on me, and it's pretty damn likable and organic. It just edged out SZA and Travis Scott. And with Lorde hopefully making a big impact next week, things look to be looking up, at least I hope. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.